see my screen now? All right. We're off to the races, guys. All right, so feel free to type in your questions, responses as we go along the way. Really appreciate it. Let's jump into the, our content for this event. And for my agenda today, guys, here's what I wanted to cover. First off, the importance of forecasting. Whether you're an individual contributor, a manager, director, a VP, a chief revenue officer, hey, what role you play in the company's ability to forecast income. And guys, if just as a little side note, we get paid, and sometimes we get paid a whole lot of money for two main reasons. One is obviously we close business, but the second one that sometimes people are not aware of is we got to be able to predict when that business is coming in. If we can do both of those things well, we'll have a career forever. And when we look to go forecasting, wouldn't it be great if we had a framework, a checklist, something that we use to have a little litmus test on whether a deal is really coming in or not, or where are possible risk factors there are. So I'm going to link this back into value selling. I also want to flip this over and thinking of it from a buyer's perspective. When someone makes a buying decision, right, what are they going through? What data do they need to make that buying decision? And if I can help them uncover it, have confidence in it, wouldn't it naturally increase my odds of winning the opportunity, right? And then lastly, we're going to go over, I'm going to share with you my own checklist and some of the tools that we use around opportunity assessment. But look, for the managers on the call and even the individual reps, I want to challenge you. Hey, look, you came on the call. I want you to get something out of it. When we get to that section, start figuring out your own checklist, your own set of questions you're going to ask about every single deal you go spend time on, every single deal you forecast, and you're going to say, and it's all an effort not to get all yeses, but in an effort to figure out where your blind spots, your risk factors are, so you can actually do something about it. So let's do this to get us all warmed up and see if you can actually type into that little question box some more. But what I really want to know is why are you here? Yep, I asked it. What brought you on today's call? Was it your manager told you to? You had nothing going on? You're looking for an edge? Feel free to type it into that little question box. I can see some of the answers. And I'm curious, what brought you here today? What are you really looking to get out of this thing and focus on? All right, see some of you kind of writing some stuff to me. Good. All right, I'm reading some of these. All right, as you can imagine, I wasn't smart enough to be able to read your answers and put them into slides. So one of the things I did is I talked to some of my partners and I said, you know what, this isn't the first time we've asked this question. We've asked this at many workshops before. What are the answers that you guys are constantly hearing? So I took the liberty of putting a little list together, right? Hey, it's everything from I was told to be here, I want to get better, I want to increase my odds of winning, I'm looking for a little edge, right? Hey, I'm looking to provide better answers to the board, similar to some of the answers you guys already put in here. But to get here, guys, this is where I challenge you. Try to find that little nugget so you get something out of it, right? What makes these webinars effective is when you grab something out of this and you can take it forward. So as it relates to forecasting, it's mid-year, and you do not have to write this answer, but in your own little head, where are you? I assume you're in three buckets. You're either ahead of quota, ahead of target, behind target, or on target. If you're ahead, hey, congratulations. You're looking for whatever little edge you can get to blow out those accelerators. And more importantly, you don't want to waste any time. So if it's not going to add revenue to this year or set you up for next year, then you might as well just take the time off. So as it relates to forecasting, every minute counts. Think about it. The best reps you've ever met, what asset are they very picky with? And that's their time. Well, maybe you're in the second bucket. You're behind target. Hey, we've all been there. You know what? Bad situation, change of territory, whatever the reasons are, it doesn't matter. You're trying to prove out some competency. You're trying to prove to leadership that you can do exactly what they hired you to do. And yep, you might be searching under every single rock to go figure it out. But more importantly, you got limited time too. So you want to make sure if you are spending time looking for opportunities and deals, you're working on truly qualified deals and you're driving those to closure. If not, you might be better off working on the top of funnel and looking for something else. Hey, maybe you're on target. You know what? Congratulations. You've had a good half of the year and life is looking good. But, you know, you're looking up to the guy that's ahead of target and you're going, you know what, I want to be there. Now, I just don't want to finish the year on target. I want to actually get in accelerators. And I got a chance to get there because I'm halfway to my number already. So I'm looking for whatever way I can improve my odds to get there. Whatever bucket you're on, guys, it doesn't matter. You're looking to get past that 50-yard line and you're looking to get whatever tip you can around forecasting and driving deal closure that's going to help you be able to predict it better. Now, I worked on this presentation, and I got to tell you, I thought back in my career, and one thing that an individual I worked with, he was our manager, and one little line he used to use was, surprises are for birthday parties. So when you get into this forecasting discussion, sooner or later, someone goes, hey, my strategy is to under-promise and over-deliver. You know, the typical sandbagger out there. And you think in some cases, hey, this is a good thing, right? I mean, I'm blowing out expectations. But the reality, it isn't. Because if you do that consistently, people will assume and expect higher performance no matter what. And it also shows that you really don't have a very good understanding of your own business when you're telling me it's probably not, and you end up surprising me with it. Look, guys, I'll even tell you a real-life story. I was working with an account, and I won't tell you the names to protect the innocent, but in their case, they had a surprise. It was a $4 million win with a sizable logo. Now you think, hey, that's good. The bad news is it caught the whole executive staff by surprise. It was such a sizable logo, and the $4 million didn't drive it, but the logo did, that it got the visibility of the street. You know, they start questioning their ability to forecast and predict revenues, and it had a negative impact. Now, I'll fast forward. Within the next immediate quarter, that manager was gone. Now, I'll be honest with you, this wasn't the only reason, but it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. And it pushed them out. So there's an example of what you think might be a great thing, a $4 million surprise, but it really wasn't, because it just demonstrated the lack of understanding they had about their business. So let's kind of figure out how to drive this thing. There's 3 outcomes to any deal: win, loss, no decision. I was taught early on that it's going to be a third, a third, a third. It sounds great. I got into this business, and guys, I quickly started figuring out, and I wrote an article on this a few years ago, man, the name of the game is win fast, lose fast. The last place you really want to be is first place loser, because that means you spent the most amount of energy and effort to come up with 0 result. Now, that third, a third, a third sounds good on paper, but if you look at research, for example, from Serious Decisions, guys, only 10% of companies out there are within 5% accuracy, and that's for a 90-day forecast. That dramatically drops after that 90 days. What looks even worse, 50% of companies out there reported an average win rate of less than 25%. Think about it. Out of that forecast, they only won less than 25% of that's out there. Man, that doesn't look like a third, a third, a third. It looks like this is a lot bigger problem than we thought. But why is it? I mean, why is forecasting so hard? Why is it difficult to get that accuracy? Let's look at some other research, and here's some of the responses. You can read through it, but I'd love you to get your attention on the first 2. First off, insufficient or inaccurate data. So think about it. We're trying to make good business decisions, and we don't have the right data or intel to accurately forecast a deal. Whose job is that? Isn't that our jobs in sales leadership and as sales reps to understand that data, to uncover it, so we can properly predict the deal versus rolling the dice and hoping we get a good outcome? Second one, and for the sales leaders on the call, you all know this one, overconfident sales rep. You know, you've all seen it. Hey, is that deal coming in? Sure is, boss. Well, how about when? Last day of the quarter, because that's the last day you'll accept and get off my back. Man, what do we do with that? How do we forecast that deal? In fact, what is there for us to do? The individual hasn't brought up any risk factors that may stop us. So basically, we either take their word for them or we got to micromanage them to go figure out the deal. Now, I also like to bring your attention to the last column. I mean, this is kind of surprising to me, right? 22% have no formal process to identify sales stages. How many of you find that kind of shocking, right? So let's move on in thinking about this thing. And if I haven't convinced you yet why forecasting is important, I went and looked at some companies in Q1 that missed and what happened in Q2. Now, these are Q1 companies. Now, whether they're retail, technology, or entertainment, as you can clearly see, it does have an impact on the organization. This is good news for us, guys. We have a really important role within an organization. Our jobs are to really drive success for the organization. And when we miss, hey, it's going to have a big impact. And this is why we get paid what we get paid. So if we're going to go forecast better and we're going to try to drive this, shouldn't we have some sort of structure framework to do this? Well, here's what I want you to do. All right, so for those of you that were about to just go peek at email, come back to me, and I want you to just take a little minute. Imagine, if you will, you got to bring this lovely fighter jet in, and that means landed on that little bitty carrier you see out there. Let's make life interesting. You've done this 100 times, but this time it's nighttime. It's pitch black. There's no moon. It gets worse. It's rough seas. That little carrier out there is moving up and down 10 to 20 feet. So here you come to land this baby. Should you have any sort of checklist to increase your odds of success? The obvious answer is yes, of course. Heck, it's not even about success. It's about survivalship in this thing, right? I need to survive this landing. And even though you've done this 100 times successfully, you still go back to this checklist. Guys, I go back to this because Lloyd Sappington, who invented value selling, did exactly this. And that was one of his lines, right? Hey, you need to have a checklist when you think about doing something like this. So let me give you a different scenario, one that might be hit a little home. It's end of quarter. You're sitting on our biggest deal of the year. We really need it. We need that deal to actually hit our numbers, hit our projections. We're all counting on you. Is it going to come in? Should you have a checklist? Should you have a way to improve your odds of success? To show to others, hey, here's why it's going to come in. Or even more importantly, hey guys, this is why it's an upside versus a commit. And if I can only get some help, maybe we could flip this thing over. So let's try to think about what should be in that checklist as we look at forecasting and bringing deals in. First off, look, we really need to understand our customer's business. And to do that, guys, it starts off with really understanding what's their business objective, what's really driving their business. Let's make it simple on ourselves. It's either profit or mission. Either 99% of profit-based companies out there are trying to show a profit, a return on investment for their investors. I say 99% because, look, if it's something else, ultimately it's about making money. Why mission? Well, some of you might be working non-for-profit or government agencies. And in those cases, instead of profit, we're going to flip that over and call it the mission of that agency. Besides that, man, the rest is the same. They hire a group of people to run the organization, and they give each of them one, maybe two, what I call critical business issues. These are big B's and big I's. So these are critical things that actually ultimately drive the profit. Things like revenue, cost management, time to market, market share, and wherever key variables that really show the success of that business. if we were flies on the wall at the board meeting, these are the things that everybody talks about. These are the things that everybody measures. And by the way, the folks that are in charge of these, this is what their comp plans are tied to. It's that important. Now, let's say that you're the VP of sales and you got asked to drive more revenue. Man, that sounds great, but it's not an easy job. You got hundreds, maybe thousands of problems, challenges, things that are preventing you from hitting that stretch target. And you're trying to decide which ones do I spend time on or not to get there. This is the same type of data you need to try to uncover to help drive the deal. Hey, one last aspect behind this thing, as they're trying to look at the deal and trying to drive it, they're also trying to figure out, is it worth it? So we would call that value, but think of it this way. The more problems you could solve, the more impact you can have on that business issue, the more value you can uncover for yourself. And by value, guys, this is impact outcomes that really allow those individuals to justify the purchase and drive it forward. Let me take a breath. In fact, let me also do one little thing to bring this thing back. There we go. I want to make sure I could see your notes and kind of drive this forward. Hey, Patricia says I'm not hearing. Can anybody let me know if you can hear me or not? Yep, all right, perfect. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. All right, so let's look at this thing as it relates to, driving business and we look at these organizations. What makes this hard is, hey, look, sometimes we're selling a real complex environment. We've all been there. We get connected, maybe with that manager, director level. They freaking love us. They give us all this great intel, but sooner or later, they got to go to someone above them to get final approval. Of course, the textbook says, hey, you need to go call higher in the deal. And we try, and in some cases, we succeed. In others, we rely on that director. And if we're lucky, we make them a champion, and they sell for us. But you also got to realize when they go sell for us, it's not about how great the technology is. Because these executives up here, they don't care about great technology. They're trying to figure out, hey, in an effort to hit our profit, I'm worried about some key metrics in the organization. Key business issues, if you will. And if you're going to come to me telling me how we need to fix this problem, you better be able to connect that or make that connection back to a critical business issue to get me to do it now. If you don't, you know what? I got other fish to fry. I got other projects I got to worry about. I got other places to go spend my resources and dollars. And look, to make this even a little bit more complex, the more conversations we have, the more sets of problems and differences that we see. Now, guys, at the end of the day, whose job is it to create this alignment, to figure this thing out? It's ours. And the more conversations we have, the better able we're going to be able to uncover this data and help that manager, or if we do get a chance to meet with that executive, have a conversation at their level using our understanding of their business, and if you will, to truly challenge them to change, because they're all risk averse these days. So I spend a lot of time on this business issue because I look at a lot of organizations and I look at their pipeline, and one of the things I see missing most of the time is a real business issue. We understand maybe our problems, we fix the problem, we maybe even uncovered some value to change it, we know who the power people are, we've convinced them through the plan. However, you know what? There's other things that can jump ahead of this project and derail us. So when the prospect states, hey, I'm looking for this, or I'm trying to solve this, I want you to be prepared with your why, and why. Why do you need it now? Why does the executive staff looking to change? Why is this important to the group? And if you will, I'm looking for you to be curious. Now, look, guys, this is going to have a great impact in a number of different ways. In my career, it allowed me to truly understand the industry I was selling into, what challenges they're facing, what they thought was important, how my products and services fit into it, and it allowed me to become, if you will, a little mini expert. Now, I didn't get that from a book. I didn't get it from new hire. I got it from really having real conversations with our buyers and understanding from them. And I figured, look, even if I'm not going to sell anything to this person, I'm going to try to learn something. Now, when you think about a business issue, what really makes it one is it's measurable, it's time-bound, and by the way, for Power, it's probably one of the number one priorities on their list. It's something they're getting paid on. If not, think about it. Then other things are going to jump in front of it and affect it. Now, some of you will cause, I sell this little service or I sell this technology. Depending on your size of deal, whoever that power person is, if you will, going to be that economic buyer and sign it, do we know their critical business issue that's really going to drive this project and create urgency to get them to change now? Because if not, you know what? Most people are risk averse. They're going to wait. All right. So, all right. Thank you for bearing with me so far. I'm going to try this out. I got a little poll for you to take, and I want you to look at what are, out of our list here, which one of these is actually a business issue based on how I've described it. Hopefully you guys can see that. There we go. We got some votes. Life is good. Good job. I'm going to let this go a little bit longer as we're still getting a ton of votes coming in. Good job. Excellent. Now think of the way I've defined it from before and what distinguishes one of those above all the rest. All right, I'm going to close this out. I got all the votes I got, and if you're a little late, I'm sorry. So let me close my poll out, go back to my survey, and then here we go. And by the way, if you could, let me know if you can see the answer up there because I'm back to displaying it. So, hey, the majority got this right, but let me explain why that is. You know, if we think about an outdated user experience, is it a problem? Yeah, sure is. But it's not a critical business issue. If you ask yourself, why is that important? You could probably go back to, well, we're losing subscribers, we're losing market share, it's affecting our business, right? But there's a better critical business issue that's behind it. Hey, high costs of internal IT resources. Some of you thought, hey, this might be it. Yeah, it's around cost, but what it's lacking is it's not measurable and it's not time-bound. If they're really looking to reduce costs, well, who is it? How much and by when? That would really show me that they put some serious thought about this. A poor customer engagement. Well, hey, you know what? That truly is another problem. You know, why isn't it a business issue? Well, hey, who doesn't want to improve their customer engagement? What I want to know is how much by when. Have we set a goal? If I had to affect this and impact it, how do I know I got there? Lack of cloud storage, same thing, just the problem. The last one, hey, I'm trying to drive 150% revenue growth, and it's time-bound by the end of the year. And that's what makes that one the most likely to be our business issue. It's time-bound and measurable. Now, some of you go, well, Carlos, you know what? When I said high costs or poor customer engagement, you know what I meant. I would just go back, ask a few more questions, find the metric it's tied to, and I could turn this into a possible business issue, especially in the type of market I'm in. That's great. It's not there yet, but if you can go back and get me the metric and figure out how that impacts the business, then fantastic. This can help us understand our business and help drive it. All right, let's continue on, and I just got a couple more slides. Now, I'm going to take this back a second. Look, most people in the world that I know do not want to be sold. In other words, no one wants to go through a sales process. You don't run around saying, I was sold the car or I was sold this house. But they all like to buy. And you do run around going, I just bought this new car. Don't you love it? It was a great deal on it. I just got this new house. What an amazing home. So let's think about the business world. We're going to go back to imagine, if you will. We're working with the sponsor, and you know what? We've just spent 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, maybe even 12 months going through all their fiery hoops and working the deal. And it's close to the end of the quarter. We have it on a timeline to close. They look at us and go, hey, you're doing a great job. I just got to go to our CFO and get final approval. We've all been there. You know, we ask questions like, hey, can I meet with your CFO? I'll present with you. Let me help you out. They give us the, nah, I got this. And better yet, they say, it's just a rubber stamp. Wink, wink. I'm going to tell them we're going with you. Don't worry. What do you think? Is this a forecastable deal, or do we have any risk factors? Now, let's think through what's going to happen when that sponsor goes into that meeting. You know, he schedules 30 minutes on her schedule. He gets there, and she tells him, hey, 30 minutes I don't have. You got 15. Go. What are you here for? And let's say you say, hey, you know what? You told me to find ways to increase our revenues by 150% by end of year. And she looks at him and goes, yeah, and I don't get it. We spend a lot of time on people, processes, technology. Why can't we get the growth that we're needing? He says, you know why? Because we got problems A, B, and C. We can't do that with our current people. We can't do that with our current structure. And we need an outside firm to come in and help us out with that. And I've interviewed a number of them. She goes, awesome. What answer did you come up with? You know what? I'll be a little self-serving. We're going to go with value selling. Why is that? Well, because they solve A, B, and C. But more importantly, they address X, Y, and Z. No other player out there could do that. It makes a key difference not only for this year, but you know what? This is going to make a key year in us achieving our revenue targets for the next 2 to 3 to 5 years and become a key part of our culture. CFO, she leans back in her chair and she says, sounds good, and it sounds freaking expensive. How much is this thing going to cost us? Where's your case, your business case, if you will? Our sponsor's prepared. He says, look, you want to spend $1 to get 2 in return. In fact, let me break this down to some simple math. Hey, if we just get 1 more win per rep for the year, this thing will pay for itself. Let me do the math for you. We got 10 reps, $100,000 per deal. That's $1 million to our top line. In addition to that, you know, one of the key things that we're seeing in the organization is not just revenue, but the margins we're getting their deal. Right now, the guys are leading with price. On average, we're giving away 30 points, 30% discount. If we could just turn that around by 10% of the 30, that's 3 points, that'd have a dramatic impact. Let me do the simple math. Last year, we did $100 million times 3 points or 3%. That's $3 million that we could have hit our bottom line if we could have avoided doing those discounts and really selling on value versus price. Sounds good. You know what? You want me to sign this thing? Has finance looked over your numbers? Has legal looked over this contract? Before I sign anything, I want to make sure everybody's on board. Are the users on board? Is this really what they want as well? Let's hope we got a yes, 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 and yes, and we get the last step. Hey, before I sign, I want to make sure this is going to work. So walk me through what you've done so far and what we got left to actually get this result. And here's our plan. We're going to be doing, we've done this so far. So that allowed us to have confidence that this is the right vendor. You sign today, we get the project started next month. You don't sign today, we'll be lucky if we figure this out by the end of Q3. We can't do anything in Q4 with the holiday. We're talking about a 2018 project. And by the way, that puts our 150% increase in revenue in jeopardy. And guys, other than my overacting, I'm sure you kind of, you know, think about this. 6 little conversation buckets. They're happening in your accounts with or without you. And if your sponsor can't answer all these questions, if they have simply one no because they didn't do the work or we didn't help them do the work, our deal just slipped. We just lost the deal and it's going into next quarter, right? Worse yet, someone does it better than we do, they get a leg up. So if we look at these things, you know, we talked about, you know, landing that fighter jet on that carrier. We need to have a little checklist. And by checklist, I don't mean, hey, is it at stage 5 versus 3, where no one understands what the stages mean. And by the way, they have nothing to do with the actual buying process. What I'm looking for, and I'll give you my checklist, but I challenge you, start writing down some of your own questions behind this thing. I want to know for top line, for power, if you will, what's that critical business issue that's really driving urgency? that they have to make a decision now versus waiting. Also, how have we differentiated ourselves versus the competition, which, by the way, also requires me to understand who I'm competing against. Have we truly uncovered a unique solution, a unique way we solve it that's better than the alternatives? And those alternatives include doing nothing, just waiting. 3 more. Hey, have we uncovered real measurable value? If you will, what are the outcomes, impact this is going to have for them? And is it enough for them to justify the purchase in the project? All right, 2 more. Have we engaged, not just know who's in power, but have we engaged with everyone in power? Think back to my little scenario I did. We've talked to everybody except that CFO. In our case, we'd have a little red flag here on number 5, and we'd have to make a choice. We're going to roll the dice and hope to God that our executive sponsor can actually sell this deal for us, or can we do something about it? Can we get our VP, our power on our side of the equation to connect with the CFO and see if we can make a run that way? And there's a number of different strategies. But, guys, it's really about figuring out where you should be doing, if anything, on what you should be doing on these deals so that you can kind of go into them eyes wide open. All right, last one. Do we have a written mutual plan that's really going to help the customer drive and get those measurable outcomes? Deal closure is somewhere in the middle of this thing, right? The plan is not for them to close the deal. The plan is for them to actually roll this thing out, get that value, and impact those business issues. Do they see a clear path to it? Guys, think of number 6 as doing, I'm trying to really give them the confidence to move forward, to make this decision, right? All right, so in your own deals, whether you're a manager, or a director, or a VP, or an individual contributor, what's your checklist? What are the things you're looking for? And what I ask of you is be consistent. Don't just wait to ask these questions at the end of the quarter where it's almost too late to do anything about it. Hey, ask these on the first day of the quarter, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, so that we can use this information to help drive our strategy throughout the deal. Now, we also have a deal assessment, and if those have been to the class, of course, you know there's a long, medium, and short. I bring up the short for you in a little augmented way because, A, you see all basically the same inspection questions, a little sanity test, right? Now, the way we grade this is going to be a little different than you've probably seen it. Usually it just says yes or no. Either we have it or we don't. I take a little different approach. So when it comes to the business issue, for example, is it time-bound, measurable, and confirmed with power? Either we're at 100%, there's nothing left to do, we got it, we got the golden egg, we're golden, or it needs a little work. Got to do one more validation. It'd be great if I just had my manager call their VP, had our CEO call their CEO. That might put us over the top. So as you think of each one of these, guys, there's no deal that's going to be perfect where it's all check, 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 check. Every deal has got gaps. If you will, I call them risk factors. And when I look at the rep, I want to know, great, I know you've worked hard on the deal. I know you've done your best. What are the 1 or 2 reasons why it may not close? And let's understand what those are, and then let's spend our time and energy figuring out, as a company, is there something we can do about it or not? Guys, I share the story with a lot of folks. This process has helped me as much in my career internally as it did externally. When I was able to truly articulate what the gaps were in my deal, man, it made a huge difference in getting support and help. Sales is a team sport, but you got to know where you need help. You got to identify those areas, and you got to raise your hand. You don't have to know the answer, right? Go back to your organization and let them know where the difficulties are and get their support to help drive it. All right. Almost done, and we're going to do your questions as well, so get ready to start typing in your questions. I am sure that you guys have some sort of forecasting report you're working on, and it probably lists the opportunity name, when it's going to close, and the size, and you sort it all by size, and you try to figure out which ones you're working, right? What I want to bring your attention to is, guys, that report should probably also include that business issue, whether we have differentiation, whether we have value, whether we have power, whether we have plan. And look, I'm not looking for reps to just put in some stuff in here to, make me happy. What I really want to know is, hey, if it's blank, great, let's do something about it. If you're unsure, great, this is going to be a great way to flush that out. And it's not just because we need it internally. Think back. Your executive sponsors, they're going to need the same exact data to go get funding, justify the purchase, convince everyone on the other side of the table to move forward. And if we're working out the same content, what better way to kind of help support them? Look, guys, I know this call is about forecasting, but think about it. As leaders, you can use this data to go help your teams and coach them on different ways they can get this. You can connect people within your organizations that can help in, for example, making out that value calculation, coming up with some simple math. And this is your way to kind of help your team out as it relates to driving that forecast. If you don't have a report that looks something like this in your organization today, I advise you to get one. Because just because these deals are at stage 2, 3, 4, or 72, doesn't matter. What really matters is what's the content that we've uncovered behind this deal, and have we leveraged it to help drive the deal to closure. All right, I got one more imagine, if you will. Promise, my last one. So come on, come back to me before you go look at that one more email. Come back to me for a second. We call this a disappointment drill. I stole this from my good buddy Gerard. I did something like it, but I didn't do it as well as he did. And what he used to do with this, guys, we're sitting here in the corner, and imagine, if you will, you get the dreaded call. The call that says, hey, man, you did a great job. You guys were awesome. I was really pulling for you. Unfortunately, we're going with a competitor. It's over. Now, this is just an imagine, so don't worry. It hasn't happened yet, but we've had this happen in the past. And let's face it sucks. So, big deal you need this quarter. Think about that deal, getting this call, and then let's do a little bit more thinking. If you could go back in time, what would you do differently? What conversations would you have? What meetings would you set up, right? What would you do differently to change this outcome? And by the way, one of the things you might do differently is walk away. So keep that in mind as well. Now, what makes this real powerful is this hasn't happened yet. And if we truly thought about some things we could do, well, now we can go do them, right? It's not too late. We're in the second half of the calendar year. Roll up your sleeves. Let's figure out what those events, activities are we can do with the deals, and let's go after it. Write them down right now and kind of drive it. Look, I always look for a good quote to make me think, and I love sharing it with others. The most reliable way to forecast the future is to try to understand the present. And by asking these questions and having a checklist and trying to understand where we're at in the deal, it makes a huge difference in you trying to drive this deal forward, all right? So, in summary, guys, here's what I'd love for you to take away from this thing. One is forecasting is key for our success. Whether you're an individual contributor or the chief revenue officer, we get paid to properly predict business. Secondly, man, we are crazy if we don't have a checklist. It doesn't have to be my checklist. It could be your checklist. But if you want to be consistent, you want to be able to look at an opportunity, go down the little litmus test to figure out where you're at, and try to do something about it so you can drive better results. Now, look, I get it. You're working hard. I mean, I've done this plenty of times, and when we go do deal reviews, people don't like me. You're awesome. You've done everything possible. What we're really trying to find out when we look at forecasting and reviewing deals is, well, what are the possible risk factors? What are the reasons it may not close? It's going to allow you to get a lot better insight into the deal, give you a different perspective, pull other people together, but you got to find them. Because if you're the rep that just says, it looks good, trust me, it's coming in, what you're really telling me is, great, just put a noose around his neck and either it comes in and we take it off and congratulate him, don't know how you got it, but good job, or it doesn't come in and I trusted you. And now we hear excuses, right? So let's try to figure out what those things are that could derail us. Lastly, good look, guys, it's all about continual improvement. We do this in all these webinars. when I got into this business, I thought the A players would be my toughest clients to sell. You know, the person that's been selling forever and it's hugely successful, they're in accelerators, they're going to be my tough customer to convince. The B and C players, they're going to love me. The reality was exactly the opposite. The B and C players don't necessarily love me all the time because some of them really hate that I've uncovered multiple things that they could do better. And unless they got that competitive mindset, they hate me. Those A players, the ones I was most worried about, man, what I found out is they actually love me because they're always looking for an edge. And think about sports, whether it's basketball, tennis, baseball, football. Hey, these players all get coaching. And it isn't because the coach is a better player than they are. It's because they're relying on someone else to uncover just one little nugget, one little thing they could do with their swing that could change their success rate. That's what it's all about, guys. I hope you found that little nugget, and happy to answer any of your questions. I also got my producer on the line to kind of help drive this. Let's see if I can see the questions a little bit better. On the disappointment side, someone said, hey, can I see that again? You're going to get a version of this deck that's, be online for you, and you can see the whole thing. And or if you want, email me, and I'll email you back the 3 lines. Next question I see. Can I get a copy of the slides? Of course you can, just like always. So, by the way, there might be a little link right on your little control panel that says handouts. You can do it right from there. And then after this session, we will send out a note getting everyone to be able to lock this in. How does manufacturing lead times factor into forecasting? Okay, so, all right, whether it's manufacturing lead times, our own legal process, our own deal desk, I'm assuming, we know that there's a range. In other words, hey, if they order part X, it's going to take, let's call it, 1 to 3 weeks. Are we accounting for that in our plan, right? And I try to use that to my advantage with them. So for example, I had a call today. Cross is great. I'll look at the proposals, and that's awesome. Hey, by the way, I know you mentioned you wanted to do September. September's booking up. So the sooner I get signature, the sooner I lock in the date, the quicker we get there. If manufacturing lead time is part of your challenge, can we include that in our plan and make it a step for them to get their success? Every day they delay, it's going to impact their ability to get success on time. So it's not my fault that it takes that long to manufacture. It is what it is. It's a great product. Of course it takes some time. We got to work together around that. The same thing, I used to hate when people would go, our legal process is too slow. Hey, it's going to take them 2 weeks. You should know better. Let's put that into the plan. If we're not looking at legal at least 30 to 20 days before contract signature, hey, that's our own fault, right? We need to be planning for these things going forward. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, I know I want to try to keep this at 45 minutes, and I'm at 46. Couple of housekeeping things. Of course, if you look at our valueselling.com resources, there are the webinars. You can download that as well, and you can register for our next webinar. So, hey, we've done a good job, I hope, of talking about what we do with the deals, getting them over the pipeline, forecasting them at the end of the cycle. What about the top of funnel? Well, August 17th, we're going to talk about 6 ways of increasing your prospecting effectiveness. And it's all about driving top of funnel leads coming in so you have those opportunities to kind of close at the end of the day. I hope you can join us. Please follow us online, and I'll leave you on this last slide. Look, we're here to help. Give me a ring. I even got my mobile number on here, my email, and let me know if you got any questions or how we can help. Reach out to me over LinkedIn. I really appreciate you guys being a part of this call, and hopefully you're taking something away from this that's going to help make you better. Take care, and thank you very much.